Yo, what is up, my friends and family? So, welcome to another episode of Journey to My Ideal Lifestyle. And I think you can hear my voice today is so much better. Yesterday I was so drained after recording those 7 videos, which probably had more like 20 takes. But those really helped in me creating scripts and realizing that scripts or writing copy for ads is really different than recording them, as well as getting me exposed to actually doing it myself and actually realizing that it's pretty easy. And also finally that it feels really tough at first and it feels really scary, especially when I had my brothers coming back. I thought I was alone at home. Brothers coming back and one of them was teasing me and everything. I realized that this is what's really needed to break out of my environment, right? To really break out of the shell of my environment, because our environment has already dictated a trajectory for each and every one of us. So I feel that this is a really important lesson even for myself, to actually realize that like for me personally, I can't just go through life hiding away from something that I had no power to actually overcome, which in the past for me was actually my environment, right? Because I felt that I was so helpless in my environment then, whereby my whole home was set up in a way, the energy of my home, the setup of my home was just set up in a way I didn't have time and space to just focus on what I wanted to do, right, on my work. So then the only thing I knew based on that was to just shut myself off from that environment, right? Go back to my cave, carve out a cave of my own. Even if maintaining the cave didn't make financial sense, in that sense, it was in reality that was me actually choosing to live, in my own place, in my own hostel and whatnot, and having all these overhead costs that really I couldn't afford. So to me, it was very extreme, right? If I can't thrive in this environment, I need to really carve out a new environment for myself, which I really feel that at the time it was important for me. But now I realize that that's also not exactly what I want, because what I ended up feeling was that I felt as if while I'm in this myself, there were times I felt lonely, there were times I felt fearful. But then I had to eventually, because of the COVID virus, I had to come back. My family, my tuition, my part-time job, just really cut me. I had to come back, and that was when I realized. But through the previous 2-3 months of actually coming back, making it a point to come back, at least once every week, I realized that there definitely are ways for me to actually integrate one part of me that wants to be with family, and the other part of me that needs the proper setup environmentally in order to be performing at my peak state, you see. So I guess there's the nice balance between the two is actually a fine balance of both elements. And one thing that really is needed in order to implement and live in that nice balance, that nice sweet spot, is actually to be able to overcome fears of what the original environment, in other words my home, the fears of the judgment I might get based on the frequency of the environment itself, right? Because any environment that you're in, let's say your home, your workplace, there's certain expectation. This is a bit in terms of social dynamics, right? Social dynamics is dependent on context, and context is also dependent on culture, right? So at your workplace, there's a workplace culture. Based on that culture, there are elements or traits or behavior that are listed, subconsciously or even consciously as good, and stuff we need to strive towards, and there are also elements or traits or behavior listed as not good, right? So this all depends on the culture of the context, which is, let's say, your work environment. Even at home, I know some friends on the extreme, and I know some friends who grew up in environments whereby it was encouraged, maybe not consciously, but somehow the energy, the culture was such that if you showed any signs of weakness, you were weak. You would get ridiculed, even by the parents, really, right? You get ridiculed. I remember my friend told me, when he did something that showed cared too much or something. Even his mom laughed at him. And I know his mom, I know his parents, they're great people, but all these kind of things, they're all subconscious, and I wouldn't be surprised if his mom, they grew up in that kind of environment. So that's what happens, eventually, unconsciously, we tend to replicate these things that we experienced in our past. So where I'm trying to go at here is that when I came back to my environment, which is my home, I realized that in order for me to find that sweet spot, I had to overcome the fears from the preconceived notion of what was really good, what was behavior that was acceptable in that context of my home, and what are some behaviors that are deemed as embarrassing, perhaps, or not good. Right? It was on me to really reconcile that culture that was set already in the environment, and think about it myself and think through which actions actually are really good for me. For example, publishing and being really able to express my emotion, let's say through video like this, right? Even though it might look embarrassing, even though it's totally new, nobody in our family does this, even though it could be embarrassing for the family, right? But having to go through this, I realized this is really important for my own growth and to hit my own goals. And the best way for me to be able to hit my goals was still valuing family, which I do, is for me to be able to overcome that fear and contribute to this new culture of the environment, because culture itself can evolve and grow and also adapt over time. So as a participant of that culture, then it is also my responsibility to bring in new elements that I know are really important to the culture, and also slowly but surely being the change I want to see itself in that environment, making it clear that I do not value certain actions or behaviors within the original culture that was set in the environment, right? So for example, things like not being responsible for what we do, it's really simple stuff like leaving our food anywhere in our home, stuff like that. It's stuff I realize I definitely do not value, especially if we're all in our 20s, So there's something I realized that then, as part of the culture, I then have the responsibility and I then am empowered to actually take a stand, right? And in terms of doing things, work ethic, or doing things that might seem embarrassing, I do also have the responsibility to take a stand and showcase that this is fine. This will lead me to greater results, that is good, that benefits myself, benefits this environment itself, my family. So that's just something that I think I was reconciling within myself, from yesterday. I just wanted to share that with you guys today. So maybe as a takeaway, what environments are you part of? I know you went through environments just yesterday, but think about it again. Just what environments are you a part of today? What are some of the behavior that is deemed as acceptable or unacceptable within those environments you are consistently exposed to on a daily basis? In terms of work, what is the culture set? What is the unspoken culture? What is good? For example, it could be that if somebody sees you even scrolling on social media is bad, right? So that may be bad, right? What kind of behavior is good? Maybe another one is that, if you're seen, working extremely hard and working even past overtime, that is good, right? So you can start categorizing these elements of behavior. Then you can, after you have the two lists, the first list of what are good based on the context of your environment, what are bad based on the context of your environment. Next, you really need to think about which of these are objectively good and which of these are objectively bad. So for example, in this case, let's say one of the good behavior is to work overtime. Is that necessarily really good for your own mental health? Does working overtime truly really mean that you're contributing more to the company's bottom line and contributing more as a part of that company? If the answer is yes, then you should keep that culture, even yourself. You should be, you should congruently take action based on that norm. But if it's not, if the people that end up showing their work overtime are just people who are actually inefficient and lazy most of the time, then you should know that this is something that isn't right. And then the question then becomes, how then can you be the change that you want to see in the environment? how then can you take a stand, even though it can be really, really scary? Because I really believe that only one of two things can happen. Either you stick, okay, three things can happen. First, you give up on your stand, which is fine. You know, you have to forgive yourself and keep trying. But the next thing that can happen is that you might possibly actually begin, once you really develop the resilience and resolve to stick to your stand, you might begin to slowly but surely see changes within your own environment, because you are definitely empowered, and by you showcasing your empowerment, you're actually empowering those around you who resonate to actually showcase their strength and beliefs as well, and for them to take a stand. So that's when slowly but surely you'll see people around you who you respect, your peers, even maybe certain bosses from different departments, they value you more. That's when you're actually being a part of change. You have now spearheaded change in your very environment. So that's the second scenario. The third scenario that could happen is that maybe the culture is just too toxic. One day your boss calls you into his office and say, that's it. You should either change your behavior, or you should, maybe this workplace is not the best for you. So that's when you have reached a road, a juncture in your own journey. You need to think about it yourself. Are you willing to, bend on your own beliefs, your own convictions? Is your job really that worth it? Are there no other possible options for you outside of this job? Or B, would you think that this might be a hint from, I have lack of other word, from the universe, right? Or your environment to actually tell you that it's high time you don't deserve to be in this environment. They don't deserve who you are and what you stand for, right? And it's high time for you to look elsewhere. So then when you decide that, you don't necessarily have to tell your boss straight up that you're leaving. You can make that decision internally yourself first, but then do it smartly, right? Think about it, be strategic, be clever about it. So tell yourself you change, but during that time when you say you change, you actually look for other jobs that you really feel more resonant with who you are, right? So secure your next rope, the next vine, before you let go of this vine, right? Imagine like you're a monkey branch swinging, right? So yeah, so I think that basically those are stuff that I felt might be relevant to you if you're listening to this, and you can apply definitely to your school, to your business, what have you. Okay, so yeah, I'm done with that. But maybe another thing I also would like to talk about and share is that I've been also realizing that there are some long-term scheduling that I have to really make sure I implement in my business, and not only that, also in my finances. But I just want to focus on business for now. Like, there's something I've been hiding and I've been avoiding for a while now, even before I took up the Peng Jun video challenge, and that is to actually begin doing some keyword research. Because I felt that if I adopted keyword research, it would have to be on an ongoing weekly or even monthly basis, and I was not ready to commit to that kind of monthly commitment of doing keyword researches and everything. And also because I was unwilling to commit like that, what happened then was I just felt overwhelmed whenever I already had the resource, whenever I saw help from the resource that I have regarding how to best go about planning my content using Trello. So all of that was based on a fear I have on actually setting and scheduling. In a way, it's not really KPI, but setting and scheduling systems or processes that must take place on a very routine, consistent basis. In this case, being monthly. Not only for my content, but in terms of even, let's say, my basically content, but let's say not only for top of the funnel content creation, but as well as for more like back end to my list, like monthly launches, for example. So I realized that's something that I really had to work on and change, and there's that fear of mine of having something routine, really like monthly routine. Wow, I didn't even realize this was such a big fear I had that really stopped me from taking action. But now that I realize it, I've brought consciousness to it. I've now shone the light on it. That's when I can realize, and I can really, now when the light is fully shining on it and it's right there in front of me, there's no way I can deny it any longer, and that's when I can actually take action on it. So maybe something actionable for you as well is, what are some things that you've been suppressing in your shadow side, that you low-key knew you had to do, but you just had so much fear towards it, right? once in a while they pop back into the surface of consciousness, but then you shove it back down underneath the surface. It's about time. Just let yourself be free, you relax, and that's when naturally these things will come up, bubble into your surface. Write them down, think about them. I just came back actually from around a half an hour walk just around the estate, just to get myself in nature, to think and reflect and give myself space. That really helped. So write down the stuff you've been avoiding that you must actually do, yet you fear. Write them down, right? And just write in 1-2 sentences. Keep it short, keep it concise, but keep it effective. Then spend some time just putting everything else aside. Just having some space of maybe half an hour or so. However much time you need to actually just think about it, just reflect on it, and eventually you definitely feel better by the end of it. And not only that, you realize that those things that were meant to be done, they just aren't that scary. And this is the way that you slowly but surely, consistently move fundamental blocks within yourself that must be moved in order to reach your long-term goals. So with that's all I have for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this one as well. This is Johan Tang. Wherever you are, I'm in full support of you. You got it, you're strong, you can do it, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.